Hey there, friends. Welcome back. It's been a while. Heck of a week. Absolute heck of a week. Yeah. Hopefully the full moon in Cancer brought your emotions to the surface in meaningful ways. They helped tell you stories that needed to be told. Helped you to see things you needed to see. Even if we weren't necessarily, if we hadn't scheduled it at this time, or if we weren't completely thrilled by its arrival. All right, so today we're going to change it up. We are going to use the Zoltar Speaks deck. And the idea here is that Zoltar, I don't know if you remember, was a character, like a sculpture within an arcade-style booth at older style carnivals when they were around in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And the idea was Zoltar the Great. You would give the couple of cents and you would get an automatic fortune, and that's what this deck is. It's a bunch of those different fortunes. In fact, it's 100 fortune cards. Now, personal story about this particular deck. Well, great that you asked. So I first used this deck with somebody else in order to facilitate some awareness, self-awareness, because that's what I love the cards for. And I completely missed the wisdom of the card. It was very astute, and I look back on that moment with like oh, yeah, thank you. I really did actually need to see that. I was like, there's no way this could possibly apply. But nope, no, it was incredibly accurate and helpful. So here's hoping that today's is the same. I'm just kidding. We put out the intention, we have the belief, we have the faith. This will be helpful to you. Okay, so your fortune. You have been holding on to the idea of something or someone in your life that no longer serves you at this time. Doing this is not productive. You hold on because you are afraid or don't know what's next for you. Heed my advice, dear one. As soon as you let go, the path reveals itself. It is time to embrace the next stage that life has planned for you. Believe me, it is much better than what's behind you. Play again. Your lucky numbers are 6, 13, 27, 30, 34, and 44. I'm smiling because 13 is the death card in tarot. So yes, absolutely endings. 6 is the number of opportunity and temporary opportunity, like temporary chances. 27 adds up to 9 for finality and closing things out. 3 is all about new communication, new beginnings, and bringing that to life through communication and relationships. 34 adds up to 7, so it's all about standing up for yourself and being strategic. And 44, follow your heart. All of these things line up. No wonder. I love it. Now, the picture is, oh, I love this. It's of Dave's storage. Everything must go. Packing up, looking at the sunshine on the horizon. I love it. It's fairly optimistic. I could go with this. So we're hanging on, are we? Funny that, how it happens. Didn't we just talk about how we're projecting what we know into the future? We can't take them with us. And it sucks sometimes. And it's not necessarily that you need to make a big deal out of it, right? This is the fun thing when it comes to self-awareness and realization. The fun thing is realizing it doesn't need to be conflict, it doesn't need to be drama. That's what you're leaving behind. And you're embracing peace and healthy communication practices. So if you're able to have a conversation, then you're able to be kind and have that conversation. If you're unable to have that conversation, then you're able to be kind to yourself and respect your boundaries and move on accordingly. So let's talk about this. We have this beautiful shift and transition in what we're doing. And I don't know about you, but I find that I'm in a massive cleanup mode. Wrapping things up, trying. It's a difficult word because when I'm using the word trying, it means that I'm not really showing up in a way to make it happen. That's just for me. That I don't necessarily say that that applies to you. But for myself, when I use the word trying, I'm like, how am I not planning to achieve this? And if I'm putting in effort, is there something that I can put into as a smaller step to achieve that in order to move on to the next step rather than tell myself I'm doing a great job at trying to do something. Facing reality on reality's terms, that's where language really comes into play. And here we are talking about letting go and moving on. So how can we change that, reverse engineer it into smaller steps so that we're able to make it fun, do it with a sense of humor, add a little bit of style and panache. You'll notice I'm not looking like the oh my gosh, somebody laughed when I showed my picture to them of the thumbnail I had from a couple of ones ago. Just that academic. And to be fair, it's cold in here, guys. So I'm wearing wool or big sweaters a lot of the time. Today, the heat is up. It's actually quite nice. And so I thought, you know what? I'll throw in a bit of color. And the fact of the matter is, when I used to do these, I used to wear a lot of different color because I felt like I needed color in my life and evidence that I, had a sense of style. Anyway. So back to our message about letting go, moving on, reverse engineering our success with letting go and moving on, and embracing the unknown. So how do we break down embracing the unknown into manageable steps? So a way that I usually would approach something like this is the wrapping up piece. And if we're able to create a ritual or ceremony that helps us to acknowledge the end of something, then it's that much easier for us to move on from it and to be able to create something new for ourselves. If it's a pattern or behavior, then I'm able to create a plan or a tracking sheet in order to build up competence with that behavior or with that new action so that I can integrate it and better see myself as successfully adopting this change. If we wanted to create a whole new life for ourselves, create a whole new existence, and maybe I'm hanging on to the old me simply by not recording as often as I could, because that's holding me back from my own practice and development and achieving the natural step. The next step, just as the card said, the next step presents itself when we throw ourselves into the practice, the actions. Who's to say? The only way we know is to get into it, right? Because no choice is absolutely a choice, and it's never the best choice. And I know I just said never. Speaking in absolutes, right? It's tough. We can always... Did it again. Always and never. Oh dear. We often have this opportunity to shift how we see ourselves, laugh at ourselves. And I say that because we develop the capacity to often see this. Whether it's being around people that are happy to help us see where we're being really silly or really obstinate on things, whether we journal and we're able to see our own patterns of thinking in a more linear way and to go, oh wow, I can really see how this adds up to that. I like to say that if you want to make the most of the day ahead of you, right? So when you are adopting new behaviors, you're able to journal about it in the morning because you're setting yourself up for success. You're reminding yourself, you're able to reinforce that behavior for yourself and give yourself the supportive pep talk that you need in the mornings to go, okay, yeah, right, I got this. Then there's the opportunity to honor the success that you've made, then be able to notice the things that you wouldn't have called a success during the day at the end of the day. That's when you want to journal and to go, oh wow, I guess, yeah, I did come out on top of all of these things. Because we have a tendency to go, we're hardworking, we are ambitious, and I love that for us, right? We have big plans, we have even straightforward plans that are robust and meaningful to us. They feel big. So in order for us to be able to show up for these things, right? Sometimes we go, oh man, I only finished 85% of my to-dos instead of the full 100. I totally failed. actually you achieved 85% of your to-dos. And if you asked around, chances are they were more than most people's to-do lists to begin with. Okay? So we gotta give ourselves an opportunity to let the little steps add up. So there we have a couple of different strategies on how to let go. I liked the image where it's everything must go by now, to sell more things. That was actually something that I started doing over fall and winter, was selling items that I don't think I would have ever let go of. Typically around this time of year, I call it my administrative time. I go through everything. I went through the kitchen, reorganized the spice cabinet, updated all of that stuff. That was this summer's project. But this fall was going through, oh yeah, every year around December I like to do this, is actually rearrange the living room and the workspaces based off of my current needs. Because things change and I will put myself through ridiculous things because I haven't had a chance to change the space around so that's why I've created the system. If I do it once a year, I give myself a lot less of a headache and actually evolve the space as I evolve so that it better reflects what I need. And especially in the wintertime, I tell you, it's important for us to refresh the green. It's important for us to refresh a sense of safety and belonging within a space. What do I need to motivate my work, my effort, my time, my energy? How am I going to remind myself and reinforce that the time and energy I'm investing is headed towards something that I truly want for myself, that's meaningful and feels fulfilling? Because otherwise, it can feel like work. And I have one of the best jobs in the world. So why would I ever want it to feel like work when I do not have to? There is nothing standing in the way of me making my days as amazing and awesome as possible. The hard part is coming up with new ways all the time because I got a brain. It's like, cool, all right, we did that. Cool, all right, we did that. Okay, let's try something different. Okay, let's try some of these. And don't get me wrong, you get your playlist of tried and true techniques and tips and tricks. But that's why a lot of the stuff that I'm developing for the online store and all of this, like the coursework, is all of the things that I've come up with and the processes and the strategies over the last, I don't know, 30 years of business. Yes, the gray blends in nicely. Thank you. To be able to say, okay, you know what? Make it easier on yourself. Learn from a few of my mistakes. And in fact, that's part of the wisdom of these videos, right? Because you are so smart. You can figure out things for yourself and you can put yourself through it. You've done that. You've definitely proven to yourself that you can throw yourself into crazy situations and come out shining on the other side. You've also proven to yourself that other people can throw the crappiest crap at you and you can come out shining. This is the beauty of transmutation, my friend. So why not turn that superpower around to say, hey, let's create a generator of experiences that are authentic, that are fueling, that truly allow me to live a life that makes me feel like I want to be here. So, how do we motivate that forward? We vision. We imagine. The future lives up here, my friends. So, we need to imagine and envision what that world is going to look, smell, feel, touch, sound like. And then we got to imagine how that is going to progress or help us connect or, achieve the things that in the areas that we're focused on, worried about at the moment, and that we're able to then say, okay, I've given that blueprint to the universe, putting it out there. I know you got this. Moving on to the next area so that we can create that new blueprint and move on accordingly. Part of what the Patreon is a sense of a grimoire, right? I don't know if you're familiar with the grimoire, but it's a book that was sort of like a recipe book back in the day, but it's also a book of the universe. It's what we know. And it's everything to do with the building blocks of the universe broken down within the context of my understanding, perspectives, and experiences. And what that does is it allows us to have conversations about how things work, why things work, and where they're up for debate so that we can feel more competent in being able to change the universe that we find ourselves in. That is the nature of navigating reality, my friend. It is being able to observe, detect, discern, and then shift things as we need to. Because once we understand the infrastructure of the universe, it can be as amazing as we want it to be. The question the universe asks us is, how good can you stand it? Because that's as good as it gets. I tell you, when I read that, I was like, oh, right. I am not comfortable with feeling good. I am not comfortable with feeling joy. And I tell you, when you do the work and you get to a place where you're like, oh, wow, I feel like I have the joy of about a 17-year-old, a joy of about a 14-year-old. You're like, oh my God, like I actually can show up and be giddy again. I can, dot my I's with hearts, for crumb's sake, if I feel like it. Really lean into not like I'm trying to say this in a way that allows you to imagine yourself with a sense of wonder. I was just watching a video today about how work is very much perceived as an obligation. I need to do this so that I can do that. And we come from a background and a history of being born into incredibly unique capacities that can heal and change the world. That has not changed. What has changed is our ability for our culture, our society, and our individuality to be able to recognize that as a good thing and then to forge the territory based off of that talent, technique, tool, and purpose that we were born innately with. We're so busy saying that doesn't fit into our existing paradigm, we don't have a spot for you. You're like, okay, thank you. I will create my own paradigm. Thank you very much. And we're here. Because after, 30 years, you get pretty adept at creating new paradigms. And where I'm at currently is understanding and integrating the knowledge that we are creators of our own universe. And you're like, yes, Stace, I know this. And I'm like, yes, I know this too. However, cyclical development, awareness, and understanding dictates that our understanding of we are creators of our own universe go from here to here to here to here. And the latest evolution, my friend, in we are the creators of our own universe blew my mind. So needless to say, this week has been a knock me down, take me out, get some healing done, come back in and be like, wow, I had no idea that we were such incredibly precious beings. I had no idea just how incredibly precious we are. And the concept that it was in our hands all along, rather than blame a God that is not listening to us, is just wild. When we think about the responsibility of that, the accountability of that, the envisioning of that, the courage that is going to require, the belief, the faith. Because one thing I've learned, especially in the last, since 2018, so we're getting on 6 years, a little more, the sense that we are into long-term planning. And I mean, I always figured I was actually kind of lucky with this one because I come from a background in film and television, where on average, in order to bring a project from script to funding, through development to production to presenting it on a big screen, would take, back in the day, on average 7 years. And so when I first worked with the foundation, with my research, it was like, okay, this is going to take a while for people to catch on, because who am I? And then it's the demonstrating the big theory again and again and again in as many arenas, conversations, and opportunities as possible, and in as many different ways as possible, to show people that it's applicable, that my understanding of the universe not only makes sense in a certain way, but adds up to a difference in our lived reality. Yeah, that's a hard one to show people. But it's been working. And I'm an indomitable spirit. And that's why we're here, because I'm working on doing this in a way that actually reflects my language and my experience, rather than what I've been shaping it into because that's what I think people want to hear or see or need to engage with in order to build a sense of understanding. So we're going to try it this way, because I have a feeling that you are catching up, no problem, that you're keeping up, no problem, and that you're catching on quite nicely. There was a moment. Confirmation burp. Oh my gosh. Shout out to another creator, Jadina. There have been some fabulous voices that I have been lucky enough to connect with through the algorithm, and they have lightened my heart immensely. There's a particular meditation, I'm going to link it in the description box, that I listen to help with change. And it's a good 22-minute one. So it's great if you're, laying down or kind of wrapping out your day, or you are taking a slow morning. In fact, we're coming up to Sunday, so I'll post this tonight, and then you'll have an opportunity to wrap out the weekend with a solid meditation. Now, the reason that I love this gentleman's approach to this meditation is he works with visualizations to help you trust your body in a process of letting go of things without using that language, which I love. And then there's also an opportunity for you to meet yourself 1 month in the future through this meditation as part of being more comfortable with change and the unknown. And I've listened to that meditation on and off through my sobriety journey over the years. Because, yeah, there's been, as far as I was concerned back in 2013, this person is not possible. This version of me is not possible. There would have been no way to comprehend who I am now back in 2013. Not a chance. And maybe that's the same for you. Maybe if you think back to 2012, 2013, the version you are now, the person that you've become, might have not been something that you could have conceived of. And the reason I'm going through all of this is because we're in a perpetual state of letting go, but this piece in particular is important to us because when we are creating our universe, when we are stepping into the unknown, most of the focus of the work that I do these days is how to show up in a good way, with as little baggage from the past as possible, with the least amount of not even limiting beliefs, because again, these are ideas, they are beliefs that have come and gone, that we've picked up along the way, but so much of what we've picked up along the way simply doesn't serve us or where we're going, because we are changing the blueprints of how we live and existence as we know it. Whether that's doing business properly. I like to think of what is proper with the idea of dignity as my guiding light, right? What would be a proper work experience if you had dignity in the workspace, in the work that you did, in the work that you produced, how you showed up, how you were recognized? How would that look like? Like, how would that feel? How would that happen? And so that's why a lot of the work that I do nowadays is on inclusivity, because let's face it, when you have worked for hundreds of different organizations and individuals, you get to see how very often dignity is not the forefront of a conversation, interaction, or work experience. It's how it is. It's how we learn. In fact, you know, people will say, hey, you've learned so much. No, they won't. They have yet to say that. Interesting. Is that because I don't talk about the hundreds of places that I worked at anymore? No, it's because I've changed so many friends groups through evolution and realizing that so many people around me were not willing to grow in the same way that I was, and I understand that. I'm very lucky still to have friends. Oh my gosh, I'm sounding like a total loner, and I mean, don't get me wrong. For the most part, I am. But I do have a very meaningful support network and friends and people I consider family. And that is something that I've had to relearn all about, right? I mean, that was part of where all that came from, is relearning what is love. If it's not something that I am successfully maintaining, which I wasn't, and it's not something that apparently I've ever experienced, terrifying thought, what is love? So that I can start to look for, maybe I did experience moments of it, or maybe I experienced it with people that I didn't consider, or I need to start building a case file for love. I am one of those people. I need a case file. Oh my gosh. But to be fair, I mean, it's driven a really great curiosity for what healthy engagement looks like, what intimacy means, how to support feeling safe in connection. And I'm grateful for that because it means that I get to, again, come up with lots of ideas of different systems that help me to then meet people where they are, because nobody's going to be the same as you are, period, right? Everybody's going to be annoying at some point or another, even yourself, right? To yourself, I mean. Um, and so, and then relying on other people to do the work, to tell you when something's wrong, means that you have an imbalance in power in your relationships. Whereas when you're able to say, hey, you know what? It's Friday, and I promised myself that I would check in once a week to be like, what's the good, bad, and the ugly, or the good, bad, and the weird? So you can let me know what was great, what's not so great, and then, hey, this was kind of weird. Because then you don't have to worry about being like, hey, by the way, I'm bringing that weird thing up again. Or like me, where I'm like, okay, beautiful, you know what, let me hold on to the Friday for that. Maybe it'll still matter, maybe it won't. But I give myself the opportunity to lean into a system so I'm not necessarily peaked every time something kind of goes with my nervous system, because I have a very hyper nervous system. It comes with the territory and the upbringing and the experiences I've been through. So, for somebody else, I would hate for them to feel like they have to be like, oh, hey, Stace, you did that thing again. Oh, hey, Stace, you know what? It's can you take care of something? When I could very well have come up with a system to maintain that and give them the opportunity to simply enjoy my fantastic presence. Oh yeah, no ego here, right? Ego is not a terrible thing. It is a cumbersome thing. And it's kind of like our appendix, and like it's not quite as important as it needed to be when we were fighting saber-toothed tigers and poisonous berries. However, it's still important, and it still benefits us in various ways when you're talking about self-esteem, confidence, and a little bit of charisma, chutzpah, and moxie, if you will. So, when we're thinking about letting go, because that's what we're talking about here, guys, being able to give us something to process the stuff that's going to come up is important. So the system, right? So maybe you want to do a burning ceremony. Maybe you want to do a fancy meal. Maybe you want to do something to signify the change in programming, if you will. Like myself, change the space. Change something that is visually meaningful to you. Ooh, here was a really big one. I realized that the blanket on my couch, because I got a cat, I just want to make sure that there's something on the couch. Plus, it's comfortable to have a blanket on the couch. Sometimes the fabric's not the best fabric, and I have this fabulous queen size wool cotton blend blanket that I got in Mazatlan, Mexico when I was 16. This blanket is ages old, but you would not know to look at it. It is a beautiful blanket. It was handmade. It's incredible. I flew with the damn thing. It's like a wool cotton queen size blanket, okay? Anyway, I got that on my last big trip with my mother. I was 17 years old, not even, I was a week before my 18th birthday. And that blanket was like so much of my relationship with my mom. I was like, I'm going to get this blanket because it's comfortable. I'm going to think of you when I use this blanket because you're you. And I can't do anything about that, but I've got this blanket and it's comfortable and nurturing. And it's dependable. When I need the blanket's there. I've had that blanket on my couch, especially since recovery and being able to like have my own space again. Because I was homeless for a little while there. And it wasn't until this Christmas that I'd finally worked through so much stuff, and I just thought, oh my God, it's time to change the blanket. Like a no-brainer. Like, why didn't I change this ages ago? It was just so entrenched, like it was like why wouldn't I? You know, I mean, it was just, this is the blanket that I have for the couch. Anyway, long story short, new blanket on the couch. It's like a new couch. And it is such a graphic reminder to me that things are different. And it is such a dramatic reminder that it's okay, that I'm okay. Once again, forging new territory, finding my feet, right? So, with a loving eye, how could you more compassionately give yourself a little going away party? How could you create a little bit more of a process to reinforce that where you're going, you've got all the right stuff with you, where you're like right now. And most of it, you could probably kind of sort through the clutter. There's some decision-making worksheets I've worked on. There are different processing techniques. Maybe that's something we could do in the Patreon as well, as the grimoire is a couple of techniques and tips and tricks and processes to work through things. I like that. Hey, if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear from you. You can always put them in the comments. Be like, hey, Stace, do you have anything for this? And I'll be like, oh, totally came up with that. The first few iterations were wild, but I found that this really works. Or you could simply tell me where you might want to see some more jokes. I can be funny, I swear. And I would love to hear if any of this has helped you feel validated in your experience, if you're comfortable with it, because that would be amazing. Like I said, I'm putting this out there like I used to with the card readings, with the hope and the intention that it brings betterment, well-being, and understanding to those that happen upon it in their viewing adventures. So, I'm going to wrap us up there. I know I keep looking off to the side because I moved the monitor this time. We're changing it around, but I feel like we're getting there a little closer every time. It's a good thing, I swear. Anyways, I will see you in a couple of days. In the meantime, I'm going to work on the Patreon and get that launched and rolling here, and would love to see if you want to take this journey with me. But we'll see you next time. All my love, mwah, and I hope you're okay.